Can you all see the agenda? Okay, I don't think the minutes were done from Monday yet. I think our plan was to do Monday and Wednesday the following Monday due to the short turnaround. So if we could table that until next time. And then we have Austin here to talk about a few of the projects that are in our CNRE fund.
Stacy, just a point of order, you should probably have a motion to table second and the voters should vote on it.
Okay, motion,
So moved.
Jen,
I'll
second,
second.
Galen, all in favor,
Aye.
opposed? Motion passes. Okay, item number 2, we have a few CNRE projects that are beach and rec related. If you look on page 26, which I'm going to stop sharing, you can see the projects related to Austin. Let's try to make it a little bigger. It's at the top of the page. The first few are projects that are currently in process, and you can certainly ask about that. But if we want to talk about the new ones first, that's usually what we focus on. And then if you want an update afterwards, maybe we could do it that way.
And just so you know, Emily is here as well. I think she might need to be promoted.
Thought I did. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
Okay, so Austin, the first project is the Green Hills softball field turf replacement.
Yeah, so that project is currently so we funded earlier the initial planning money. So we're in the process of doing that right now. It's in the design phase. We went out to bid for that and selected a contractor. So this 300,000 is for the actual work on the field, the replacement of the turf. This is the Polson softball turf that the high school softball team plays on, Little League, travel baseball, travel softball. There's PE from the high school that takes place on there. It's in need of replacement, and we are hoping to kick that off right after July 1st when the new budget takes place. So again, in the design phase now, and then we'll go out to bid for contractors once the budget's approved.
So I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing Austin. I think I got the gist of it. Yeah. Is there anything we could do to fix your microphone?
I think, Austin, when you lean back, it muffles out. I was able to read it though with the caption.
Mm-mm.
How about now?
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Sorry.
So repeat everything you just said.
I said a lot of really great stuff that you all missed. It was really, really good. So yeah, 300,000, that's for the actual turf replacement. We're in the process now. We've had planning money that we started using this year. We've hired a engineering firm to do all the planning. We're in the process of that now, meeting with them weekly, and then this 300,000 will allow us to replace the turf. And the Polson turf is used by the high school softball team, the Polson softball team, Madison Little League, travel baseball, travel softball, PE classes at the high school. So it's used a ton from really March to November. So it gets a lot of use from multiple groups in town, and it's definitely at its life's end of the current turf. So this is an important project.
Any questions on this project? Oh, Alex.
Good morning, Austin. What are we talking about? Turf? Is this like AstroTurf or
Yes, our artificial turf. So the high school, the Polson softball field now is currently AstroTurf or artificial turf. So this is just a replacement in kind.
how long did the AstroTurf? When I went to school there, we didn't have AstroTurf, so I'm probably not a proponent of something being put in the dumpster. Sounds like what's there now is failing and being replaced. Why we consider just going back to normal, healthy lawn, saving the money and the environment?
So especially in New England and the Northeast, having turfed fields is extremely important for spring sports. As we all know, the spring in Connecticut is extremely wet, and to have grass fields that are unplayable in the spring just due to rain and the grass being wet. Most towns going forward, any field replacements that are taking place in most towns are going artificial turf. It extends the life of the field. The maintenance on it is much less than if I had to have a crew up there, every 2 days mowing and lining the field. So it's a initial investment, but the maintenance and the cost to maintain the field long term are definitely less than it would be if it was natural grass.
Thank you.
Sure.
Austin, just so folks know, about how long can we expect a turf field to last these days?
So it's usually, 10 to 15 years. And the good part about this project, there's new technology. I don't know how many of you are familiar with baseball, softball, but the pitcher's circle in softball and the batter's box and the catcher's area are the most worn out places. So those need the most maintenance. So with this project, there's new technology where those areas can be removed and replaced with new product. So you're not replacing the entire turf field, the infield, outfield. You're just replacing the batter's boxes, the catcher's area, and the pitcher's circle. It's velcroed in and then sewn in place. So with this, we'll purchase an extra pitcher circle, batter's box, catcher's area. And then when that gets worn out, we replace that with something we own already, instead of replacing the whole field. So it definitely extends the life of it, but usually 10 to 15 years. If it was just the high school softball team playing on there, it would extend the life, but this is a multi-purpose field that gets used by, a lot of different groups throughout the year. So yeah, it's about 10 to 15 years.
And this has been in the queue for a long time too. This is not this has been planned for, is my point.
Yeah, so I put it in, right when I took over Beach and Rec, so 5 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. Joan?
Austin.
This is actually not for Austin. This is for the Board of Finance members and who will be watching this as well. Each year I request that all the turf fields get their own account. So because they're not non-recurring, and these are supposed to be non-recurring items, like one-offs that happen every, 50 to 100 years. And since we know the lifespan, similar to how we know when the fire trucks need to be replaced in 15 and 20 years, I think we could set up a separate account so that it's not in this one, and we could move forward. So that's my again, each year I ask of that, and each year, if you Board of Finance, if you can look into setting up that account, I'd appreciate it.
Seeing as I'm the lone Board of Finance member at the moment, I will definitely bring this back to the board and we'll talk with Stacy and we'll let you know, but I appreciate that.
Yep.
Yeah, and along those lines, while we're still talking about the replacement, and Laura, I'll get to you in one sec. There is a page in the book on page 19 where we're talking about Strong Field turf replacement. This page is new and it's future projects that is coming our way that did not make it into the 5-year plan. So, you know, based on that question, how long do they last? This field is coming up again in the future. I just wanted to throw that out there. And then Laura, you're up.
Yeah, it's been a long time, but I have spent a lot of time on that field um, when it was a lot newer. So, and I just wondered because, you know, I was around when it was new and the placement of it, you know, sort of you know, it sits down low. Are there any issues drainage wise with its location that they have to do extra work or anything? I haven't been there in a while now, but.
No, so my daughter plays on the high school softball team and played little league there. So spent many hours and time at this field, and it drains perfectly. There's no puddles. It was done correctly in the beginning, thankfully. But they will do, as part of the replacement, they do drainage tests, and they will pull up small areas of the existing turf to ensure that when the new turf is put down, the base layers are correct to ensure that the drainage remains consistent throughout the field and works as it should.
The other thing, and I think I asked this last year as well, is in terms of the material that they use. You know, there've been, you know, some talk about the materials and the girls in particular, because they are often in shorts. They're not like the football players that are, you know, much more covered. You know, they slide and, you know, some of that material does you know, contact with skin and abrasions that, you know, I just don't know what the latest studies are.
So all softball players, baseball players wear pants. There's no shorts ever, at least in the last 15 years. So
I'm
that's
not that old.
I'm sorry, Laura. but definitely, yes, you're right. You know, 20 years ago, high school softball players did wear shorts with like long stockings, but definitely that is not the case currently.
Stop,
Great.
Laura.
Yeah, at least they let them play.
True. Okay, I don't see any other hands raised for this project. So maybe we can move on to the next one, which is the surf club, the whole entire park in the building.
So the Beach and Rec Commission is kicking off the process of a master plan for the surf club property. And that will start in January. And this is funding. So we have funding in place already for a master plan. This 100,000 in year 5 is to start a budget for whatever that master plan entails. So the possibilities of the building being moved, raised, changed locations, updated, parking lot updates, roadway updates, entrance and exit updates, that will all be a part of the master plan. And this is just the initial funding for that entire project.
So is it a placeholder or is that the money you'll need at that point?
That's a start.
Gotcha. So we're starting to build that fund is okay.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, this project has been here, as you know, forever, probably since we started. And also on page 19, it is listed as an upcoming project. So once we know the costs, then we could really start talking about what it's going to look like.
And the money that's been spent to this point is to get us to understand what that budget might look like, correct?
So
Planning dollars.
we have not spent money yet. So the initial start of this master plan begins in January, where we'll hire consultants and studies and public hearings and meetings and gathering public input.
I love the master plan terminology.
Yeah.
That's grand.
We've all been through enough of those where we need to use the right language. So
Fair enough.
yeah, it's exciting. It's a great opportunity to enhance the park that thousands of people use every year. And it's in need. Surf Club, just the building itself is in need of a lot of TLC. So this is a good start, and a good plan will be put in place to move forward.
So Austin, just to that point, I mean, I agree with you. It's a need, but it's also being put out so many years. And that, I assume, is because of the debt that is coming on board and all of that planning and the dollars that we need to smooth out things. Is that fair? Is that why we're waiting this long, or is it the planning and designing?
So I think both. The planning's gonna take a few years to do. And the cost of this entire project, of whatever it's going to be, is going to be substantial. So pushing that out multiple years is, I think, important for not only the Board of Finance and the town, but the public as well.
Thank you.
Alex has his hand raised.
So I think Katie may have just sort of asked what I was trying to get to. Why, if we're in need now, why are we pushing out so far? Seems like, so the 100,000 is year 5, but what's happening? So we won't see any change for 5+ years. Is that right?
Well, I would say, if I could, this is really a planning document. I mean, if we get ahead of the game and Austin gets, the committee or the commission and the boards have a plan earlier, then it certainly can be moved up, but we want something in the 5-year plan to throw a number in there that we didn't even, that doesn't make sense. We didn't want to do that. So we did want to dedicate some funds to make sure this project moves forward. So yes, if we get things moving further, it will be a discussion if it should be moved into a different year.
And we've
Oh, that's
seen
great.
that with,
So it can move up. Yep.
right, Stacey,
you.
we've seen that with grant dollars and things like that before, that sometimes things become available and we're able to move things.
Yep. Yeah, really, year 1 is what we're trying to really set in stone, and years 2 through 5 is for planning purposes. Any other questions on this one? Okay, the last one is the playground at the Academy Community Center.
So this one's interesting. So I'll give a little background. So as we all know, the Academy Community Center is in the process of getting started. They met last night to review all the bids that came back. And as part of their budget, or as part of the planning for Academy School, the current playground needs to be moved and go away for a septic system. So the playground needs to be replaced. That playground gets used 365 days a year by families in town. It is also in as an ad alternate in the Academy Community Center bids. So I think that's a discussion that needs to take place. My personal opinion is, if when the playground gets removed to put a septic system in, we can't wait 5 years to put a playground in. It has to be done as part of the project. So if that stays in the academy school budget, gets approved and gets done, then this can be taken out of the CNRE.
Otherwise, if it doesn't get in the project, it may have to be moved up in the CNRE.
Correct.
Is what it sounds like. Anybody else?
Is there, this is Alex, is there a dollar amount that they have budgeted similar to this?
So it's not budgeted, but it was put in as an ad alternate, and the bids that came back as the ad alternate are right around this same dollar amount, correct?
Except for one.
Right. Yeah.
Uh,
But I think 300,000 is,
Yeah.
that's about what it's gonna cost. I've reached out to our contractors who have done like the Surfical Playground and other playgrounds throughout Connecticut, and they were confident that this is a good budget number.
For today's standards, so if we were to wait 5 years, which I would hope we wouldn't, it wouldn't be 330 then, but I think it's just a fallback, it seems like.
Right. I mean, there will be escalation in 5 years, but you know, it's a dollar figure that I'm comfortable with right now. And if it does not go forward in the academy project, then I think next year when I come back and sit in front of you all, we may need to change that number and move the project up. Or if we move the project up, I think that's a solid number.
So this number would be as an independent installation. The numbers that came in on the ad alternates were at this number and below, because there's an opportunity, if you've got the equipment out there, that the preparatory work will be part of that whole thing. So it's only looking at really the actual equipment, I think, and setup and installation versus prep work. So that's why it may be a little lower on the bids.
I agree. It will definitely cost less to do it now instead of staging a whole other contractor, having them bring all their equipment out. When all that equipment's there, the professionals is there, you know, moving soil around and doing their thing. It will cost less than if 5 years from now we would do it independently, like Joan said, for sure.
Katie?
I'm comfortable with this being in here, just given where it's placed. I think there's a lot of decision making that needs to happen. I'm glad that it's there as a contingency in case it doesn't get added as an alternate. I do think it's a conservative number based on what the playground cost at Brown, which I am intimately familiar with. But again, at this point, I think there's enough unknown that it's important to have it in here because we, as a town, agree that that is a great community playground regardless. And secondly, I think, you know, it's not until 29-30, so I appreciate it being put in the outer years as well. But I also hear that we don't want to do without in that very important space for our community. But I do think that, I mean, I love that the numbers came in lower, but I'm very surprised given what we went through at Brown.
So I think I agree with you. I think Brown is a smaller footprint. Brown is a bigger footprint than the Academy Playground. So it's not like of equal size and scope, but yeah, I think hopefully it gets going with the Academy project, and then we could, you know, take this out and move on to other things. But I think it's important. It's an important piece of the public, you know, recreation setting that is you can't do without a playground there for sure.
Alex here again. I should raise my hand. Sorry. So it almost seems as though the community would want to know that we're saving money putting it in now and waiting 5 years. you'd almost think that number should be way, way, way higher. And there be a way to notate the savings that we would enjoy if we, by doing it now. I guess I'm just trying to say it's almost like a false number in 5 years because it's going to be much significantly higher.
Yeah,
It
and
will be.
again,
There'll definitely be escalation, of 8%, 5% a year. So doing it, yeah, I think the Academy Building Committee, when they met last night, definitely understood the importance of having a playground there and hopefully including that when they look at the ad alternates, making sure that that's at the top of the list of things to add in.
Laura.
Yeah, I hesitate to bring this up, but there was talk years ago of a splash pad. Is that we not doing that? Like that's not a thing anymore.
It's not a thing anymore. That got struck to narrow down the scope of Academy.
Okay. Plus, I think they're kind of gross, but
I was
The-
excited, Laura.
I know, but then there became all these health things about it. So
And you're a 10-minute walk to the ocean is the thought process too.
yeah.
I know.
It makes Austin's life easier with liability wise.
Mhm.
And maintenance as well. And we would double the budget probably or triple.
Yeah, there's a reason why it got struck from the Academy Building Committee. We had great expectations and then it was like, okay, cut. There you go. That was an easy removal, I have to say, unfortunately, but I think it is a proper one.
I think it was originally part of the ARPA as well, and then we decided not to do it.
It was, yep.
Correct.
Okay, I don't see any other hands. Does anybody have any other questions for Austin?
I have general questions because I'm looking at last year's report and it may just be, and there are items that were slated for 2025, 2026 that are no longer in the plan at all. So I just have some questions about that. So one of them is the barn remediation. And
So-
about, sorry.
It's done.
Done.
Oh, okay, so that got pushed up. Okay, and then same thing with Bauer Farm CR?
Yep. So that if you look under the 24-25 on the screen,
Yeah.
we've done or are currently doing or have done the Bauer house project. So that was painted this summer and was completed at the beginning of October. We painted the house and the classroom. Now we are entering inside the classroom to do flooring paint, cabinetry.
Yeah.
So
Last year there was 114,000 slated for this year, for the 2025-26 budget. And and there were 45,000 for the barn remediation. So
So
those
it-
two numbers, the 35 and the 16 were in the plan, but then the next year's dollar payouts are not.
I think those funds came from a study that we did town-wide and what we needed, and numbers were put in there through the old facilities director. We now have a new facilities department, and them together with Austin went through to see what they really need to do, what they want to do, and they
Mhm.
decided to remove those funds.
Okay. Thank
That
you.
was a common theme too. There are a lot of little things
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
that we're starting to really clean things up now that we have a fresh set of eyes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Don't know who was first, Emily or Alex. Well, I'll go with Emily since you're first on my screen.
Ladies first.
I'll just be quick. I just wanted to comment on the playground also that in case it were ever to come up as a question about can we I get this notice, okay. Can we reuse it or whatever? And that's come up with the school playground conversations and we can't. So for various liability reasons and taking it apart, re-putting it back together. So just in case that was ever a question for anyone, it's not an option. So just want to share that.
That's helpful.
The town of Guilford just put in a new playground at one of their parks, and they donated their old playground to, I don't want to say it was somewhere in the Dominican, possibly. So there's an opportunity there to not just make it into garbage and to make use of it at another location outside of town as a donation.
That's nice. Thanks.
Alex, you put your hand down?
No, I was
Oh,
figured
oh,
I was
that's-
next.
okay.
Getting ahead of myself. Austin, the sailboat racks, I know I guess those probably fall somewhere under here under maybe the master plan. But wondering over the years, well, one, they're getting old, you probably know better than I. And two, the size and use of boats have changed over the years. When I was a kid and had a rack there, we had sunfishes and they were gigantically wide. Today they're mostly kayaks that are much narrower. So is that on your radar to replace? And if so, when we go to rebuild, does it make more sense to make them smaller, give more people an opportunity to have to rent one and also generate more money by renting to more people?
Yeah, so that'll 100% be a part of the master plan of Surf Club. I agree. Kayak racks are more in demand than larger sailing vessel storage opportunities. So that'll definitely be in the mix when we look at space and adding different types of storage units there for sailing opportunities. But we would need to keep, some area for the bigger boats that people have. And we typically sell out of all the kayak racks at all three beaches, particularly east and west. Those are, East Wharf has a waiting list of 180 plus people.
I'm one of them. Yeah, I think it's like 5 or 10 or 20 or 50 years.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's just no space at east or west to add additional racks. So Surf Club is our opportunity to think long term and add additional when we get to that point.
I think with East Wharf, if you went smaller, if you divided up the racks and then much smaller racks, you could get more. I think what I see is one person rents and then you have 4 or 5 friends all share. But the speaking of East and West Wharf, does the Surf Club work or budget go to, are they all grouped together or are they totally separate as far as what we'll see in this redo?
Totally separate. So West Wharf will have its own plan that'll start, in the next year as well. And then once we get West and Surf under control, then we could tackle a plan for East Wharf. But West Wharf is next on the list once we kick off this Surf Club project. There's a lot more involved with West Wharf, but that'll start as well. We've been in discussions for a couple of years now about when we're going to kick that off, and that'll start, in the next year.
Wow, it's exciting for the town. Thank you.
And Alex,
Yeah, it is.
I came off the waiting list 2 years ago, so there's hope.
Oh, that gives me hope. Thank you.
And Austin, when it comes to master planning, I was at Watch Hill and they had lockers for beach chairs as a revenue builder too. I would love to store my beach stuff someplace.
I second that.
Absolutely, that'll be considered. That's definitely when other towns are doing their planning for their beaches and parks, that's something that a lot of them are incorporating into the plan. So we'll definitely do that.
Yeah, I'll put my name on the list now.
I would have loved to have storage for all those little kid toys. Oh my gosh, that Austin, those will sell out like Polar Express tickets, let me tell you.
No joke.
Yeah.
It'll like beach pass revenue. No joke.
Yep, yeah.
Okay, any other questions or thoughts for Austin?
Stacy, we just funded your whole fund. You're like, you are clear. We just found revenue for your entire beach and rec fund. You're welcome. Our
Thank
job
you.
here is done. Merry Christmas.
Okay, I think we're good, Austin. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Austin.
Austin.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, does anybody else have any comments or questions that they want to go over before I go to the citizen comments? Yep, Katie?
I do. I just, I've spoken to, first of all, I want to say thank you to Jean Fitzgerald, who, has resigned from the Board of Finance and, as a result, from this committee. So I just want to acknowledge, all her work and dedication over so many years on many boards and commissions, and her, special dedication to CIP and before that LoCap. So I just wanted to acknowledge her. And I also have heard from some members, because Jean was our chair, that they're concerned about our lack of a chair. And while Stacy has been a rock star, our meeting, the Board of Finance meeting last Wednesday was canceled because of the storm, but it was something that we were going to hopefully discuss in board member comments. So just, I think, more info on that is forthcoming. I just wanted to acknowledge Jean first and foremost.
Yeah, and
Yeah, thank you, Katie.
I'd like to second that acknowledgement. I worked with Jean way back when this was called LoCap. And I was on Board of Selectmen and she was on Board of Ed at the time. And we shepherded in CIP for the first year and she was the chair and we went through process and procedure for, oh, Stacy, how many months did we go through process and procedure that we now utilize here with the sheets and the checkoff and things like that, and really give a tremendous amount of credit to Jean for, all her hard work for this community, and applaud her for her years and years of public service and thank her tremendously.
Yeah, thank you. She's done great things for the town.
On behalf of the Board of Selectmen, I wanted to also add our appreciation for all of Jean's actions over the years and her strong sense of leadership. Stacy, I know you don't like it when I ask you questions, but since we don't have a chair, I'm going to direct it at you. Where are we in our CIP process at the moment? We are certainly doing a lot of our listening. When we are done with our listening, what is it that we're going to have to do at that point?
Yeah, I think what we normally do, we listen to all the departments, go through all of the projects, and then the working session starts January 13th. And that's when we're going to look at the overall picture, the summary pages that are in your document, and see if you all are happy at that level. And if you do want to make some changes, and then we have the opportunity to go back to the other funds and see if we want to make any changes and where.
Stacy, is it possible for you to give us a preview of what you're going to say to us on January 13th?
Sure. You want me to show you the screen? I mean, if you go
Well,
to,
I guess as we're conducting our hearings, I just think it would be helpful for many of us to understand that when we get to the end of the hearings, what is expected of us? Do we need to make big cuts? Do we need to winnow things down? Are we in pretty good shape? What is it that what difficult deliberations lie ahead of us?
yeah, so I think there's a few things. If you go to the tab that says annual capital budget and 5-year plan, page 15 shows you all of the expenditures that are included in every tab. It's a summary of what we're spending by department. So I think that's the first place you want to look and see if you're comfortable with the distribution. But then the sheet that means most to me that I focus on is page 16, and that is what that is what is impacting our budget when we go to referendum in May. So you will see the total that we plan on putting into each fund, as well as now debt services on this page. It's a little bit different than it has been because of the Madison investment plan. So I think we need to spend some time definitely on page 16. And then if you have any concerns or questions in any of the other funds, I know CNRE is definitely a hot topic and we go through those funds a little bit more in depth. At that point, we can go and look at the projects that are in the other funds. And I do want to, and I think I said this in the beginning, any little change that you make in one fund is going to change the funds in a different fund. They're all linked. So if we remove I'm not even going to pick a fund. If we remove something in a non-CNRE fund, that could potentially give you more money in the CNRE fund. So if there are projects that you want to smooth or move around, that's going to be our opportunity at that point. So I do think we'll, focus on 16, and then we could go through each of the funds as a refresher quickly. We used to vote. We can certainly vote on each fund to approve it as is, but I would recommend we wait and make sure we're comfortable with the entire picture before we decide that one fund is good, because they are all linked together now, which was our plan 10 years ago.
Thank you, Stacy. Maybe I could further ask whether the Board of Finance has any expectations about what this committee should be doing come January 13th.
Oh, go ahead, Katie. You're on mute.
Sorry, I put my hand down instead of unmuting. Al, I can tell you that one theme that I'm noticing this year that I will express to the full board when we meet is that there are rarely, if ever, any new projects this year, which I appreciate. That was not the case last year. There were a lot more deliberating and discussion about new projects, particularly in year one. And some of that was because of ARPA, some of that was because of grant money, and some of that was just out of need. I'm not seeing that this year, and so it seems pretty cut and dry to me. However, I want to spend, and I'm sure the Board of Finance will be spending more time really delving into page 16 of our book and, making sure that everything that's in there, as well as the other operating budgets, make it, fiscally responsible for our town, and a potential increase in the mill rate, which we obviously try to avoid. I hope I did an okay job with that, Stacy, but I know this year seems so cut and dry and easy compared to years past. And so a lot of credit goes to Stacy and her team. Yes, I'm talking to you, Kristen. And but
Thank you.
as well as the new facilities team, who are really went the extra step to take this book on and really look at things and make sure that the things that were listed, sometimes you get caught in a cycle where you have something 5 years in, and then you look at it in 5 years and you're like, yeah, we could get another 2 or 3 years out of this. They went through this document you know, with fidelity and really tried to manage that. And I think that has made our job this year a lot easier. So thanks to them as well.
Yeah, and I think on page 16, you know, we should spend a little bit of time talking about the Madison investment plan. I mean, you could see on that page that the debt is going from this current year of 2.3 million to 8.2 million in our budget per year. So that's, you know, that was the whole purpose of setting up the Madison investment plan, upfronting and infusing money into here, knowing. So you will see that the CIP funding is going down. So we planned for it, but I do still think that when we go through the funds and look at the ending balances, there may be some decisions you want to make. If Katie, I know you always look at the ending balance in CNRE. Is that good enough? If it's not, if you want that number higher, then we may have to make some choices on some other projects in some other funds. So I do think having it all linked together and starting that conversation will really be helpful to move forward a good recommendation to the boards before we go to referendum. Any other questions, comments? Okay, I do not see any citizens. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Before we go, do we have a meeting Monday?
No. Oh,
Okay.
actually,
We're off for a little while, right?
we
So
don't have a meeting until January 6th, and that's when the Board of Ed will be talking about their plan. And I did want to give you a little bit of an update on from what's in the document. So the Board of Selectmen, when they recommended, or when Peggy put her recommendation in, there was a line item to ask the Board of Ed to relook at their 10-year plan and possibly reduce by $3.6 million, which was the amount of the roof that at Daniel Hand that was put in year 5. So Emily can attest to this. The Board of Ed did a lot of work combing through everything, and they have made some changes to get to that goal, just about get to that goal. So I do have an update. The Board of Ed did approve it on November 26th. So I just didn't want to confuse things and send it out while we were at this point in time. So before our next meeting, when we send out the agenda and the minutes, we will include the updated Board of Ed 10-year plan.
Thank
And
you.
sorry, Galen, you too. I mean, I didn't mean to
That's fine.
exclude you, but if you, I don't know if you two have any additional comments, or we just wait until January 6th.
I think we can wait. It'll speak for itself, I'm pretty sure. We
Thanks
covered
to you
it.
both. I can imagine that was not fun or easy.
It worked out.
All right.
Okay, so
So
that
now I move to adjourn.
second,
I'll second.
all in favor.
Bye.
Bye.
Great work,
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody.
Stay
Happy
happy
holidays.
holiday.
Happy
See everyone in
holidays,
January.
everyone.
See you
Have a
in the new
great
year.
one.